Hey, y'all, I'm Bud Elliott, and this is Cover 3 College Football Summer School. We've done our research on the teams, and now we're bringing on the top team experts from the 24/7 Sports Network to help us fill in the blanks. Please follow us on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast. That's Cover 3 Podcast. And leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. All right, class is in session. Hey, guys, welcome back into Cover 3. I'm Bud Elliott, and this is College Football Summer School, and today we are talking Alabama. And to help us do that, it's Travis Reier of BamaOnline. Travis, welcome to Cover 3.
Hey, Bud, what's going on? Been a little while, but great to catch up.
Man, just grinding through all these. I feel like I'm learning so much about these teams. If you're not familiar with the format yet, because it hasn't gone live, try to do as much research as I can, read y'all's great content at BamaOnline, and then going to ask you some stuff that I still feel a little bit uncertain about entering the season, and try to learn as much as we possibly can here heading for summer as we get ramped up for the season. So, Bama last year, just a couple plays short of the national championship. If Jamison Williams doesn't go down, maybe that's a different story altogether. Have to think Tide fans pretty happy overall with the quality of the season, even if the final game didn't go their way.
Yeah, but it just seemed like the season caught up with them, right? 15 games, you lose Mechie in the SEC championship game, and even though you were still able to win that one, there was still this lingering thought that this is one that could catch up to this team. And then you lose Williams in the first half against Georgia, and you're just starting to think, yeah, you don't ever discount Alabama at any point, even in those type of scenarios. But even this team or that team had a threshold. And I think it was pretty apparent. That's not to diminish from the accomplishment by the Georgia Bulldogs. They were the best team in college football from start to finish last season. But you're right. Even with all that said, Alabama in the fourth quarter and Indianapolis was right there in position to win a 7th national championship under Nick Saban.
I think as time goes by, we're going to go and appreciate that SEC title game even more. Like, as we see all these guys get drafted, and like, you guys put 40 on that defense. Like, doing it once even is incredibly impressive. And I guess we'll start there with the offense. So if you look at kind of the opponent adjusted efficiency numbers, run game was still top 20. Inconsistency was, I guess, occasionally an issue with establishing it. Pass game, just dynamite. Top 5 basically everywhere you look. Bryce Young returned, so I won't ask you a ton about him, but I do want to know a little bit about the receiving core. So Mechie's gone, Williams is gone, Billingsley's gone, Slade Bolden is gone, and then Robinson as well, who caught quite a few balls for a running back. I think he had 35 catches last year. That's a good number. Now they bring in Gibbs, at a running back who can catch the ball, and he's dynamic. How big of a role do you think Gibbs and Jermaine Burton, the Georgia receiver, are going to play for these guys?
Going to have to be huge. And by all accounts, through the first 13 practices this spring, they've been exactly what Alabama hoped they would be. Burton coming in to solidify a top spot in the rotation. I think he's more along the lines of a Mechie than he is a Jamison Williams. And I think that's why you're going to continue to hear perhaps Alabama involved in the portal even in the coming weeks, similar to a year ago when they were able to go get Jamison Williams after spring football. So I wouldn't classify Alabama as done where the transfer portal is concerned. But, Burton gives them a sense of security. He's already developed a nice sort of relationship with Bryce Young. And, Gibbs is a guy that, as you alluded to there, he can help you cover for some issues even on the outside because he is so versatile and because every time he touches the football, whether it's on offense and also in the return game, there's a chance that he could score from anywhere on the field.
If you're an SEC fan watching this video and you haven't watched a lot of ACC ball, obviously I'm a native ACC guy. He is special. We had him at the Army game before I worked for 24/7 Sports, just right before. And even then it was like, oh, this is different. Okay. Very exciting player. That's kind of scary for Alabama to have him. And they add Burton. And, they obviously have Corey Brooks still and a host of young, talented guys. Travis, moving to the offensive line real quickly here. So 5 of 7 guys who played 250 plus snaps are back. I feel like that's, I mean, I'm doing my notebook here. It looks like okay depth. You lose Evan Neal, plus you go out and get transfer Tyler Steen from Vanderbilt, who's a quality player. This group has to improve from last year, right? Even though they lose Evan Neal.
Yeah, I think you said it. They have to. And you like what the interior brings back for sure, because guard to guard, that's where a lot of that experience that you spoke of really exists between the two centers that made starts last year, Seth McLaughlin and Darian Dahlcourt. And then at guard with Javian Cohen and Emil Ekiyor back for a third year as a starter, in good shape there. And their depth is really solid there too. Some guys that a lot of people haven't heard about yet look to be promising when you talk about the interior positions. But absolutely, Evan Neal going to be a top 5 pick in all likelihood in the upcoming NFL draft. So left tackle stands out first and foremost. You go out, get Steen from Vanderbilt. You feel like for a guy that has made 30 plus starts in the Southeastern Conference, he's going to be one of the tackles. I would think left tackle, but he has also worked at right tackle. So, it essentially comes down to, in all likelihood, that other spot. And that's where you hope a guy like J.C. Latham, a 5-star for the 2021 cycle, is ready to step in there. But if he isn't, they've cross-trained some guys between guard and tackle. And, it could play out a number of ways. But I would expect Steen to be front and center in that mix, as they need 2 tackles, and that offensive line last year, if they had won the national championship with that offensive line, understanding Evan Neal is a great player, it would have had to rank among the least likely offensive line to win a national championship under Nick Saban.
I'm glad you said that, because I remember thinking last year when I saw some of their starters go down or battle injury, and some of the replacements who came in as Bama was trying to find the right combo, I was thinking, somebody better get these guys this year, because I just saw some of these dudes at recruiting camps, and while they were very highly rated recruits, and justifiably so, they were more like longer term projection upside rating as opposed to instant impact type rating. Like a Damian George, still very high upside, but not necessarily a great player off the bat. And then now with the year more experience for all these guys, Georgia should be glad they got him when they did. Is there a worry on the offensive side that we haven't gone over yet for you?
I think that it's probably, again, more in the wide receiver spot once you get past Jermaine Burton and Ja'Cory Brooks, a former highly coveted prospect for the 2021 class. Did some nice things down the stretch, was heroic against Auburn in the Iron Bowl when Williams was ejected for targeting in that game. We haven't seen him this spring, so there's still a lot of unknowns at wide receiver with Ajay Hall moving to the transfer portal. So they still have questions there, and also depth at tight end. Although if they get the tackle situation figured out and it doesn't involve Kendall Randolph, the program vet, they can give him that number 85 jersey. He shares time between 85 and 60, but they could put him more in the 85 and let him work with Cam Latu. They like Robbie Oots, a second-year player at tight end, and this was a big tight end class for them that they're bringing in. So they've got some young guys to work with, but there's a little bit of uncertainty at the tight end position as well.
Let's go ahead and go over to the other side of the ball. Run D, top 5 in the country, opponent adjusted. Pass D, a little bit of slippage, top 15, but a whole lot returns on this side of the ball. 4 of the top 6 defensive linemen, if you look at the snap count return. I have to think that group probably improves with the way Bama recruits, and yet I'm not necessarily fully certain on who the names will be who step up there. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, some guys that have played a lot of football over the last 3 seasons. You go back to even 2019, they had some injuries and some issues that pressed some of those guys as true freshmen onto the field in the front 7 in general. But it's time for a guy like DJ Dale to take the next step. It's time for a guy like Jamil Burrows, Tim Smith, when you look more at the interior, to step forward, because they lose a lot of negative play production with Vidarian Mathis making his way to the National Football League. So they have some capable guys, some guys like Justin Aboigbe, Byron Young. They've been very solid. Young has flashed some tackle for loss production in the last couple of 3 seasons. They need him to be more consistent. But they've got some young guys in the last year or two that I think they like pretty good too. Tim Keenan is a guy to keep an eye on here in his second year in the program. But for now, anyway, Bud, they are more of an edge team. When you talk about Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, and now an emerging Chris Braswell, a former 5-star in his own right, that's where you feel best about this team. And then right up the middle, even at inside linebacker and safety, because you return both your starting safeties, you bring back Henry To'oTo'o at the mic. Jalen Moody is a veteran that you feel confident about there at the weak side to go along with a young player like Deontay Lawson. But they need playmaking ability to emerge more so than anything else from those interior guys.
Yeah, I want to take you there to that interior linebacker spot. I mean, the outside guys, being a Florida guy, I love Dallas Turner. I'm shocked at how good he was this early. I think that is probably scary for other SEC opponents that he was that good that early, because I thought, being a basketball guy, a little bit raw coming out, although he did have a really nice high school senior season there. If he keeps improving on at this rate, that is scary. Bama may not have to blitz quite so much this year. But inside, To'oTo'o, mostly pleased with him as a transfer, I think, but maybe not a real impact guy for them. Who do you think, assuming he's going to start, right? I would guess continue to start.
Yeah,
who's opposite of him?
Yeah, I think there's just so much trust in Henry as the play caller. That's what struck me most last year, was how quickly he came in as a summer guy and really took over in the middle of the defense in terms of running the show. So I'm not sure that his best position is Mike. I think he's probably better suited for off the ball. But their top guys right now are more of the same. I think Jalen Moody is kind of that guy as well. So they're interchangeable in a lot of ways between the Mike and the Will. They ask all those guys to learn both spots. But right now, I would think it's going to be Moody, who, for a second there entered the transfer portal in his own right before we heard that Christian Harris was actually going to make the jump to the NFL. And then Moody returned to Alabama. But they've got some really good young players. Jihad Campbell is an early enrollee that I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh, the IMG kid?
Yeah.
Have you seen him yet in person, Travis?
I haven't. We haven't been able to access practices. So impressive.
He's a different level of quickness, man. I got to tell you. Like, we went down there and shot IMG. They had a 24/7 sports day at IMG. And even amongst all those IMG kids, like, the explosion he had was just different.
Love him too, because he's more of today's linebacker, because you can cross train him. I think they're working him primarily inside right now, but I know a lot of people love him as an edge guy. So I think that's in his future to be able to do those kind of things. But yeah, they're stockpiled pretty good. You got Sean Murphy in that mix now at inside linebacker. Ian Jackson has been around a couple of years. Demoy Kennedy. They've got a wealth of options, but in terms of experience right now, I would think Moody's helps him in that race.
Finally, we'll finish on the secondary. It's Alabama. It's Nick Saban. You pretty much always expect them to have an elite level secondary. Last year was still pretty damn good. Just a little bit of slippage at times. Battle and DeMarco Helms are back at safety. Kool-Aid McKinstry is still there. And by the way, Branch is like super steady from every time I watch him. And then they go and get Eli Ricks from LSU. How does this not work out? Because I feel like this is going to be a studly group.
I think it's going to work out, but there is certainly a lot of intrigue in terms of how it might shake out, because they like Terrion Arnold too, a second-year guy that well about.
Oh, as a guy, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there was some question about safety, corner, sub-package roles. It's a good situation to have with Terrion Arnold. It sounds like right now he's also in that mix at corner. So you've got Eli Ricks, Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Kyrie Jackson that came in as a junior college player. So again, in terms of physical ability and the attributes you look for in those spots, and Ricks has some documented big play success in the SEC, I think they're going to be just fine. And that's before you talk about the sub package guys like Branch, like Malachi Moore, No one talks about Malachi Moore hardly anymore. And he had a huge freshman season in 2020. So they've got exactly what Nick Saban loves right now. A lot of legitimate competition, not just numbers, but they've got guys every day that are having to scrap for every rep. And yeah, there is a nice sense of security there with Battle and Helms back at the safety positions. They know exactly what they've got there, and they can sort of go from there on the back end.
It's been a great breakdown of Alabama. I feel like certainly a couple fewer questions about the starters and a lot less questions about the depth this year. Maybe hard to get the Tide in 2022. Travis Reier of BamaOnline. Also check out the BamaOnline podcast. Travis, really appreciate you coming on.
As always, appreciate it, bud.
All right, that's the bell. Cover 3 College Football Summer School is over for today, but don't worry. We'll be back soon with even more episodes filling you in on the top teams in college football. Please give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at Cover 3 Podcast, and we'll see you all soon.